Good afternoon. Today is April 10th, 2025. The time is 2:04 p.m. This is the duly called meeting of the Texas Low-Level Radioactive Waste Disposal Compact Commission. I am Chairman Brandon Hurley. We are here today in lovely Odessa, Texas at the Odessa Marriott Hotel and Conference Center at 305 East 5th Street in the Devonian Ballroom. We are here meeting after the conclusion of the low-level forum meeting, and before we go forward, we want to thank the low-level forum for letting us append onto their meeting. It was a very informative meeting, and for those of you who are online who have not been to a low-level forum meeting, we encourage you to do it because it is incredibly informative, and it's wonderful to get to see everyone else in our industry. And so for those of you who are joining us here today that attended the forum, thank you for sticking around. We will not be long today, I don't think. I think we will be done in less than an hour because I know the Southwest Compact has their meeting at 3. So we will try to get you out of here and to their meeting. Quickly, the quorum is present because I see Commissioner Saudick, Commissioner Morris, myself, Commissioner Nyack, Vice Chairman Salzman, and online we have Commissioner Peter Bradford, who we appreciate joining us from Vermont. My guess is your weather is just a tad bit different than ours. So with that, we have a quorum. Do we have any other, we see a lot of you here that are from other compacts and from our interested stakeholders. We appreciate you being here. Are there any other elected officials or press members here today? Seeing none, I think we can move on. Online though, we do have Commissioner Bobby Janeka, who we appreciate him joining us. And we regret not getting to see him over the forum. And we also see Mr. Lashinsky, who is the nuclear engineer for the state of Vermont. We always appreciate him attending. We hope to get to talk to him later today. With that, we are through the first 3 items. Oh, I'm sorry. We have our new Attorney General representative here with us. Mr. Ogle has been very, very beneficial already to us, and we appreciate him coming all the way out here. And he is a critical part of what we do, so we appreciate him. And as always, we appreciate the staff that we have that makes all this run. So thank you, Megan, and thank you, Stephen. With that, we are to item 4, which is public comment. As a reminder, this is a general comment period. If you want to speak on a specific item in our agenda, please feel free to wait for that item because we will give you that opportunity as well. But if there is a general matter that you would like to address the compact on, we would ask that you come to the podium up here, announce who you are, and then we will let you say your piece. And with that, I think I see Monica stand up, so we will invite her to the front. Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much.
Mike's on.
The mic should be laying up there. I think.
Lost the stand.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, my name is Monica Perales, and I am counsel for Fasken Oil and Ranch and also for the Permian Basin Coalition. I'd just like to update you on our lawsuit to try to stop the consolidated interim storage plan that the NRC, ISP, and Holtec have for our region. We were heard by the U.S. Supreme Court on March 5th. A lot of people said, how exciting. Yes, but no. We prevailed at the 5th Circuit, and I would rather it had stayed that way. But they are, ISP and Holtec are essentially forcing this on us. We expect to hear from the Supreme Court at the end of June. I'm here if you have any questions. We also have members of ISP's management board, Mr. Carlson, and an officer, Mrs. Sanchez, here. I'm sure they're also able to answer any questions.
You may not know the answer to this, but do you know why? What is your timeline based on? The timeline for the ruling from the Supreme Court? Is that something they have promised, or is that just an estimate on?
That's what they said we should expect.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Ms. Perales? Dick, do you? I see.
Can you just kind of give us an idea of I realize you answered this question probably several times, but I still don't entirely Why do you?
Yes, sir. You asked, why are you getting into this?
Yeah,
Um,
why are you getting in it? Why are you making this such a big deal that you're up to the Supreme Court and all that?
Well, first of all, going to the US Supreme Court was not our choice. We wanted the Fifth Circuit. Both licenses were voided, but it was forced upon us. We had to go to the Supreme Court and have our hearing and have our say and defend our stance. And why are we making this? It is a big deal. Shipping all of the spent nuclear fuel to Texas and New Mexico, we didn't benefit from those utilities and those reactors. It's being forced on us, and property rights are huge. I mean, I don't understand the
Okay.
question.
Well, I guess we could go on all day. It's,
We could.
I mean, why, but yeah, it's a,
I think an element of consent should be part of the equation.
what do you think is the way to handle this sort of problem?
Reprocessing. Of course, I'm not the expert. The NRC and the DOE should be looking into this, but I think reprocessing is something that
Do
they
you
should.
think
look
that's
into.
feasible with these days? Do you think that's feasible?
I think it should be looked into. I think it should be revisited. But we presented a lot of evidence to show that the sites don't qualify, and the NRC dismissed our evidence. They looked to the applicants and said, well, we're going to go with their evidence, or they just said, well, it's outside our purview, so we're just going to move on. For example, terrorism and the risk of terrorism. Raytheon security defense analysts told me personally that we're putting a target on our backs. It's no place to be putting all this spent nuclear fuel.
You'd
the
rather
NRC
have it, you'd rather have it at all the utility sites, all the,
I'd rather have it at a single use facility, an area that's single use. According to the IAEA guidelines, it doesn't belong here. Just follow those,
where does it belong?
follow their guidelines.
Where does it belong?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not the NRC. I'm not the DOE. And honestly, after everything they've put us through, I don't know if I have confidence in them in answering that question either.
Okay,
But you have an officer and a member of their board here. You can ask them as well.
anyone else want to answer that question? Where should it go?
As we said in the presentation we made before the forum, we are, this, beyond our jurisdiction. We have
Okay,
authority.
okay.
And we're interested in it because of the impact of the operation of the local facility. But obviously, from a jurisdictional perspective, we are interested observers, and we appreciate the information. Well, I'm not saying that.
Yes, sir.
But,
Yes, sir.
but obviously, there's no action we can take that would in any way impact any of the.
No, and I appreciate your questions and your interest.
Okay.
Thank you. Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure it's in that regard. Well, again, we want to welcome you. The first thing you've been here this week. I'll be clear, but I don't order because I hope everyone appreciates it. Commissioner Anwar brings amazing set of expert skills that really we have not had on our commission before. We're very excited about him being here. I know that's probably rushing the world on Ryan. He is he's a great addition to our compact commission, and we really are looking forward to working with him, and we are in his backyard, so we appreciate the hospitality of Midland, Odessa, and we just wanted to welcome him and make sure everybody knew that he had joined us. So, any other public comment under item 4? Oh, no. Dan Schramm.
I'll use the microphone.
I was about to say, I've heard you say this a few times this week. Could you please use the microphone?
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
apologize. I know you're running close. We had an error on a lunch order. So when you're done, there's lunch right next door. So is that the best
I was
public?
about to say, Dan, that's the best thing you've ever said in a meeting. We appreciate that. Thank you very much, Dan. And again, thank you very much for the forum that you put on. It was really informative, and I think anybody who attends gets more than their money's worth, so we appreciate it. Any other public comment? Any online? Oh, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this. If you were online, if you'll use the raise your hand function, which is in the bottom tray of the Zoom screen, and it will simply raise, it will show us that you want to speak. So that's the way we would ask you online to let us know that you want to speak to any item that we have. With that, we will move on to item 5, which is a report from Mr. Dave Carlson of Waste Control Specialist. And we will invite Mr. Carlson to the podium. I think Dan turned that off on purpose on you.
Test 1, 2.
Yes, much better. Thank you.
All right, thanks so much. I'm Dave Carlson, the president of WCS, and I'll keep it short in the interest of time today. So just to quickly go over the things that we normally report in the compact waste facility, current fiscal year to date, that's of course beginning the Texas fiscal year in September. In compact disposals have been 11,473 cubic feet and 415 curies. Out of compact has been 17,090 cubic feet and 54,136 curies. The totals since inception, and inception was back in 2012, obviously, and through March 31st of 2025 is approximately 400,000 cubic feet disposed and 463,000 curies decayed. In terms of constructed capacity, where we sit today, we have, of course, phase 1 and phase 2A both constructed. Phase 1 is 450,000 cubic feet. We have used up 375,000 cubic feet of that, so still 75,000 cubic feet remaining. Phase 2A is 425,000 cubic feet, and we've used about 25,000 cubic feet of that so far. So 400,000 remaining there, so a total of 475 at this point. In terms of quarterly payments that we've made, just this last quarter, that's the quarter ending February 28th of 2025, we made a $2.1 million payment to the state of Texas and $480,000 to Andrews County. And the total since inception have been $92.4 million to the state of Texas since 2012 and $20.5 million to Andrews County in that same time period, for a total of about $113,000 total paid in those additional surcharges. I'm sorry, 113 million, Commissioner, sorry. Well, I'll tell you, the zeros matter to us. Let's see, in terms of recent site operations, we are of course pleased to host the tour a couple of days ago and continue to hope that we can host additional folks to come out and see the facility. It certainly helps people to understand what we're doing when they can come out and see it. In terms of the status of the application for renewal license, there's really nothing new to report. We get the occasional additional questions from TCEQ as they're doing their review, and we respond to those promptly so that they have the information that they need.
And there is no firm timeline on when TCQ is finished, right?
No, they have as much time as they need to do a proper review of that. So that could be, months more, or certainly could be years if that's what they find is necessary. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Mr. Carlson? Thank you very much, Mr. Carlson.
Thank you.
I am going to combine items 6 and 7 on our agenda because it's really just one big report about our committees in general. And the report is this: the committees will be changing with the addition of Commissioner Anwar, and we're not committing him to anything yet, but we hope he takes a very active role in some of those committees. So we are going to probably reconstitute the membership and maybe even the chairs of those committees. We will do that in the next several weeks before our next meeting. Members, if you have specific interests, and as a reminder, those committees are the Rules Committee that reviews and proposes new rules, the Capacity Committee, which monitors capacity at the site to get both trends and maybe potentially suggestions on how we best preserve capacity and any of the needs that we think may be coming from our in-compact generators. And then in the contingency plan committee, which is currently chaired by Commissioner Mundy, who's not here today, which is one of our statutory mandates that we have a contingency plan in the event of an interruption of operations at the site. So those are our three committees. There's also a technical committee, but Vice Chairman Salzman is the permanent head of that committee because no one else in their right mind would ever do it. So I don't think we'll make any changes to the technical committee, but those other three committees, we will probably reconstitute them and maybe reconfigure who the members are. So if you have preferences, please let Stephen or I know, and we will do our best to get everybody where they want to be. And hopefully by the next meeting, we'll kind of have a new announcement of who our committees are and maybe even a refocusing of what their missions and goals are, because I do think those are changing as well. With that, I think we are through items 6 and 7, and we can move on to item 8, which is consideration and possible action on import applications. And we have 3 today. And we will start with item 8A, which is the import application of North Star demolition and remediation. And we will turn it over to the Vice Chairman for a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from North Star Demolition and Remediation. It was received January 2025. It's number 1-0470-00. In this case, North Star is a generator requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the Act. They've specifically requested authorization for Class A, Class B, and Class C stable and unstable demolition debris, remediation waste, radiated hardware, and sourced manufacturing materials. Those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site via letter correspondence from TCEQ dated March 27, 2025. They requested a volume of 4,000 cubic feet and initially, I believe 80,000 curies. We had some discussions with North Star through the executive director, and they asked to reduce their curie amount to 500 curie. So the application is officially 4,000 cubic feet and 500 curies. The waste will originate from the state of California, which is part of the Southwestern Compact. Does require export authorization, which we do not have at this point. I would note that we did receive a letter, I believe April 3rd, from WCS recommending approval of this import application. And they requested an agreement for this fiscal year, so the proposed agreement would be through August 31, 2025. The technical committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? But if you had an application that was more than 15,000 curies, not how would we do that?
My opinion is we would treat it the same as an irradiated hardware application. We've never had, well, it was a mix of stuff. And I believe early on in commission operations, maybe the second or third year, I think we had a very large application from maybe EPA or somebody like that, that was in excess of 15,000. We didn't have our contingency rule back then either, though. So to answer your question, I think we would treat it as in a contingent basis, just as we do for other irradiated hardware.
Any other questions? Yeah. Is there an explanation?
I believe they're not going to be shipping the irradiated hardware, which would have been the vast majority of that 80,000.
Okay, so, if we pass this, does it have to kind of relate back then to the original application and the sign off by the TCEQ and that sort of thing, or do you feel?
So TCEQ's
something-
letter specifically approved the waste streams that they requested in their application. So they would be approved to ship irradiated hardware, so they could still ship a small amount, or I should say amount's not the right word, a small activity of irradiated hardware. They would still be authorized to do that. And it's possible as they're demoing things, you could create a small amount of what is technically irradiated hardware. Even shavings or things like that can add a few curies to waste. So they would be authorized to ship that, but they would not be allowed to exceed 500 curies for the total amount of material that they ship.
Okay,
But I think. Came back and amended it after the TCEQ letter and asked for more. That would be
yeah,
going up, we would need new TCEQ approval going down.
okay.
Technically, we don't need TCEQ's approval for the curies. We only need TCEQ's approval for the waste streams.
So if it's a new waste stream.
If they want to add a new waste stream or something like that, then we absolutely must have TCEQ's approval, but not technically for the curies.
And I see that, Commissioner Janeka has a hand up, so we can make sure we hear from them.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Commissioner Janeka.
Good. Thank you for allowing me to offer my 2 cents. This is Bobby Janeka, Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. I just wanted to offer a little additional caveat on the words Vice Chairman Salzman's offering on our letters and the meaning of that. I just want to point out that for y'all's purposes, there's an authorization, there's an approval, but from our agency's purposes, I'll reiterate, those letters they carry no weight or permission unless waste shows up in our resident inspector at that moment and that day says yes. So I just want to caution and add a little context to Vice Chairman Salzman's remarks saying that it's a TCQ approval letter and remind everyone what those are approving. This is a prospective look out on wastes that would come. We don't see any apparent impediments or obstacles, but as always, those communications we send to y'all are forward-looking perspective based only on what we're aware of at that point in time. So just adding those caveats and appreciate y'all's consideration of our agency's perspective.
Thank you, Commissioner Janeka. That's an important point to make.
So I'll just, the letters are typically essentially the same for each, that they send. And I'll pull out a section of the letter. There's a lot of boilerplate up at the front, but basically says the TCEQ hereby certifies that the waste contained in that application is authorized for disposal under radioactive material license number R04100. And when it says that earlier in the paragraph, it's referring specifically to an application. In this case, it was the application from North Star Demolition. So the letters are almost identical in that respect that we receive for each import application.
Any other questions on the technical committee? Hearing none, I can move on to a motion.
I move to approve the import application from North Star Demolition and Remediation number 1-0470-00. The waste class is Class A, Class B, and Class C. The waste form is stable and unstable. The waste stream is demolition debris, remediation waste, irradiated hardware, and source manufacturing materials. The volume is 4,000 cubic feet. The total radioactivity is 500 curies. The waste will come from the Southwestern Compact, and they'll be required to provide a copy of the export authorization from California. And the agreement would terminate August 31, 2025.
There is a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion about item 8A, the import application for North Star demolition and remediation? Any public comment? on item 8A? And again, if you're online, please use the raise your hand function. Seeing none, we'll move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the import application of North Star demolition and remediation contained in item 8A on our agenda, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. Now move on to item 8B, which is the import application of Dominion Energy. Turn it back over to the Vice.
Give me just a moment. Looks like there's a duplication in the packet of I think there was a repeat of the 470. There's no 471 in the packet. Hold on.
It may not be labeled with the number.
I may have had a, yeah, hold on, let me.
Well, yeah.
I see North Star twice.
And if you go by that, I think at the end of it, Dominion Energy's import application. There, you talking about your report or the actual application?
No, the application's there, my report,
Oh, okay.
but I can, if it's not in this packet, I can find it. Just give me just a moment. I'll go to it. I have a copy here.
Okay.
So the technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from Dominion Energy, North Anna Power Station and Surrey Power Station. That was received January 29, 2025. It's number 1-0471-00. In this case, Dominion Energy is a generator requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the act. They have specifically requested authorization for Class B and Class C stable and unstable bead resin, mechanical filters, and dry active waste. And those waste streams were approved for disposal at the site via letter of correspondence from TCEQ dated March 27, 2025. They requested a volume of 600 cubic feet and a total radioactivity of 600 curies. This waste will originate from the state of Virginia, which is part of the Southeast Compact and does not require export authorization. We did receive a letter from WCS recommending approval of this import application. And they have requested an agreement for this fiscal year. So the proposed agreement would be through August 31 of 2025. Technical committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the technical committee? Seeing none, I think we can move on to a motion.
I move to approve the import application from Dominion Energy, number 1-0471-00. The waste class is Class B and Class C. The waste form is stable and unstable. The waste stream is bead resin, mechanical filters, and dry active waste. The volume is 600 cubic feet. The total radioactivity is 600 curies. The waste will originate from Virginia. And the agreement would have a termination date of August 31, 2025.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Anwar. Any further discussion about item 8B, the import application of Dominion Energy? Any public comment on item 8B? Dan's trying to keep us awake. Hearing no further comment, we move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the import application of Dominion Energy represented in item 8B on our agenda, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. We can now move on to item 8C, which is the import application of Entergy operations. We'll turn it back over to Vice Chairman Sullivan.
The technical committee has received and reviewed an import application from Entergy Operations, Inc. Received January 29, 2025. It's number 1-0472-00. In this case, Energy Operations is a generator requesting authorization to dispose of waste in accordance with the Act. They've requested authorization for Class B and Class C unstable resins and filters. Those waste streams were approved for disposal at the compact waste facility via letter of correspondence from TCEQ dated March 27, 2025. They've requested a volume of 2,883.02 cubic feet and a total radioactivity of 982.49 curies. That waste will originate from the states of Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, which are in the central and southeast compacts and do not require export authorization. We did receive a letter from WCS recommending approval of this import application. And they requested an agreement for this fiscal year. So the proposed agreement would have a termination date of August 31, 2025. Technical committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the technical committee? Hearing none, we can move on to a motion.
I move to approve the import application from Energy Operations, Inc., number 1-0472-00. The waste class is Class B and Class C. The waste form is unstable. The waste stream is resins and filters. The volume is 2,883.02 cubic feet, and the radioactivity is 982.49 curies. Waste will originate from Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, and the agreement would have a termination date of August 31, 2025.
There is a motion. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Nyack. Any further discussion about item 8C, the import application of Entergy operations? Any public comment on item 8C? Hearing none, we can move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the import application of Entergy operations represented in item 8C on our agenda, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. As a reminder, commissioners, this was a rather light import meeting. Next meeting, we will have scores and scores of them because it is the last meeting before our new fiscal and disposal year. So in the next meeting, we should expect to have a multitude more than we've had today. So just to prepare your mind and spirit for that. The next item on our agenda is item 9, which is consideration and possible action on amendments. And there's only one amendment, and that is in item 9A, which is the amendment of Bionomics Inc. And I will turn it back over to the Vice Chairman.
The technical committee has received and reviewed an amendment request from Bionomics, Inc. It was received March 5, 2025. It's number 1-0447-02. In this case, Bionomics has requested authorization for an increase. Overall, they have had increased waste collections. So they've requested an additional 100 curies, and they also requested the addition of DAW as part of the waste stream. There were no other changes requested. Would note that the TCEQ approved the addition of DAW for disposal at the compact waste facility for this amendment request via letter of correspondence dated March 27, 2025. The technical committee recommends approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Quick reminder about our amendment process. Our amendment process is much less formal than our application process. We developed the amendment process because we found that people were, rather than amending existing agreements, they were either coming back with new requests, which were confusing because people would have multiple agreements in a single year, a single disposal year. And we also found that people were trying to abuse it kind of the other way too. And instead of getting a new agreement every year, they were simply asking to amend previous agreements. So what we developed streams, locations from which the waste originates, we asked people to do that by amendment. We further refined that process and passed a rule that talked about a minor amendment. And a minor amendment is one that does not change volume or curies, but instead falls into a laundry list of what we have deemed to be minor, which does not have to come back before the commission for a full vote and can be approved by the chair and the executive director. Generally, what we found was people were having to come back before us and go through this amendment process if they wanted to add a state. And we thought that was trivial and not necessary. So we developed a minor amendment process. But anytime there is a change in volume or curies, we always insist that it's a major amendment and we require them to go through our more formal process, which is what we're doing here today. So with that, any questions for the technical committee on the the amendment of request of Bionomics?
What is the DAW waste stream?
Dry active waste.
So, yeah, I was
paper.
about to say, that's a good question because I'd like to hear the answer too.
Typical DAW is paper, plastic, trash. It can be small parts and things like that, but a lot of it's
And those-
protective clothing.
And a lot of those are items that simply come in contact with radioactive sources, and so they become contaminated. So it's usually smaller dose, but I believe Richard Adams has coined the term rags, bags, and tags.
That would be DAW as well.
Yes, yes. Any other questions for the technical committee? Hearing none, I think we can move on to a motion.
I move to approve the amendment request from Bionomics Inc. number 1-0447-02. This will add 100 curies and it will add DAW to the waste stream.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
There's a second by Commissioner Anwar. Any further discussion about the amendment request of Bionomics represented in item 9A on our agenda? Any public comment on item 9A? Hearing none, we can move on to a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the amendment request of Bionomics represented in item 9A on the agenda, please indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes. And with that, we are through with item 9. We can now move on to item 10, and I will make this very brief. This is the chairman's report. Item 10A is always our report on communications with other compacts and the forum. Well, we're at the forum. So we obviously have had a lot of good discussions with the compacts today. We're excited that we might get to witness the Southwest Compacts meeting, which is at 3:00. Obviously, I think the forum still serves a vital function. That was a big discussion this week, and we hope that both our federal partners and others see fit to continue supporting both financially and other ways the forum. So we think the forum is critical to having a national voice on issues that are important to everybody really in the low-level radioactive waste community, but especially those of us that are in compacts. So we appreciate what they do for us and how they support our operations. The next item is 10B, which is legislative updates. And all I'm going to do is refer you to the wonderful presentation that Brian Christian did for the low-level forum. He went through and detailed all of the pending bills that touch on radioactive issues, including waste. There are some that are very important that we're obviously watching very closely. Our legislature meets through the the first few days of June. So we are quickly coming to an end of the legislative session. And once that's over, we'll then have a much better sense of what passed, what's going to the governor's office, and then it'll be up to the governor to sign, veto, or let those bills become law without signature. So we are very interested in those. On the budget issue, which obviously is boring to some but critical to us, I believe the budget is being laid out in front of the House today. So we had no problems with our budget hearing. We're very appreciative of what the legislature is appropriating to us, and we expect it to pass with no problem. But if that changes, obviously, you'll probably be hearing from us very quickly. Other than that, I don't think there's anything else to report. When we get to future meetings, we will talk about our future meetings because as I mentioned, we expect our July meeting to be pretty application heavy. And so we may need to have a contingent reservation for a meeting maybe in early September, since we don't go to Vermont until early October. But we will talk about that in that line item. So with that, we're done with item 10. We can move on to item 11, which is our executive director's report.
And all I've got for you on that is just a budget update on where we're at budget wise. Our spending is well below what our actual amounts are that we've been allocated. So we'll probably give back another $100,000 at the end of this year, actually, when the fiscal year expires. But in addition to that, we renewed our lease for our real estate for our office, and there was a slight increase, but not much of an increase for that. And other than that, I don't have anything to update on budget unless you'll have questions about the budget.
I have one question / comment. Again, this is probably not as important to anyone else as it is me, but I'm very proud of what we've done with our lease. We had a lease in a downtown office building that cost us probably 4 times what we pay now. So we have, and we are not in fancy digs by any means, but they serve our purpose. And we're very proud of the fact that we found this spot and we're saving, I think, a substantial amount of money every year on what we used to rent. So I am both proud and glad we got to renew that. Any other questions about the budget? Okay, so as I said, that is item 11. We're now on to item 12, which are arrangements for future commission meetings. Our next meeting is July 24th in Austin. We thought that would be okay because the legislature should be concluded by then. And I'm sure the weather will be beautiful. Not hot at all. So Dick, we expect you to be there. And Peter too, absolutely. We know how they both love the heat. But that will be the last meeting before the new fiscal and disposal year. So like I said, there'll be probably quite a few applications. If we get enough of those that we truly think we can't get those done in a single meeting, we may need, or if someone puts in their application late but really needs us to pass out an import application to begin their fiscal year, we may need to have a meeting either in late August or early September, because the fiscal year and disposal year starts September 1st. And so we want to be responsive to the needs of our generators. And if they need import applications, we want to provide them plenty of opportunities. We'll probably know that, as everyone knows, we have to have applications on file 35 days before the meeting. So probably in somewhere around June 20th, we will have a sense of what we have, how much time it's going to take, and if there's others out there that we expect to come in after that date. So we will keep everybody informed. And it's a long time to go from today to July for a meeting. But we also, as we always say, we do not want to be people who meet just for the sake of meeting. So we thought that was the appropriate time frame. Maybe most importantly to many of you, the meeting after that is October 9th, and it is in Montpelier, Vermont. It is always a highlight of our year. The weather and the scenery is amazing, and we get to see all of our interested parties in Vermont. There are some new officials in Vermont government that we'll be able to meet with because we'll be meeting in the capital city. So that will be a very important trip as well. So Stephen and Megan will be getting out the information about hotels and everything else in the next couple of days about that, because I know you want to get your reservations in early. And for future meetings, everything after that is probably on a TBD basis, because as I said, we'd never meet just for the sake of meeting. If we need to meet, we will meet again before the end of the calendar year in December. But oftentimes that meeting gets canceled if we don't have any business to conduct. We definitely will have our July 24th meeting. We'll definitely have our October 9th meeting. So for planning purposes, you can know that. Any questions about future meetings? All right, hearing none, we are on to item 13, which is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. Commissioner Anwar, we got you out before 3.
That's right.
Let's go. Let's say hi, Chris. Meet you again. Absolutely.